p.m. We're back for another SEDA stream of 2025, and we're here with Socket founder, VC, and CTO, and co-founder of SEDA, Jasper. Super excited to talk to you both. Sort of the stream angle for this year is we're zooming out of like project deep dives a little bit more, and so talking a little bit more about kind of the state of the industry. There's some like super spicy takes happening at the moment across CT that I want to dive into. But first up, VC, I think we did our first stream with Socket maybe middle of last year, or sort of Q3 last year. Since then, I feel like you guys have just had absolute momentum and incredible growth in the chain abstraction worlds. I think you amassed over 12 million transactions through 2024, I believe, if I was looking through your timeline. And then just recently, we've had Socket Enclave, Socket Quinto, Socket Polygon, Socket Brahma as well. And then I'm very curious to find out what Socket Society Powerpuff Girls is all about. But maybe a good way to start this podcast would be, I just want to sort of go through some of these partnerships because they all enable different experiences, but with Socket underneath, which the wider story here is that chain abstraction is expanding at a rapid rate compared to where we were in 2024 when we met. So let's dive in there. Give us the recap. Let's start with Enclave, which I believe is bringing smart wallet capabilities to EOAs, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Glad to be here. I remember the first one we did. It was the like early days. I think a lot has happened since then, and we've been like pushing a lot of things. I think you guys have as well. So it's been pretty nice to see. I think yeah, on our end we are like super heads down at the moment, trying to get a better understanding of what chain abstraction can actually serve, because I feel like it is sort of like a new computing paradigm. I like to call it, dressed up like cute UX, so it looks like it's just about UX, but really it is a new way to build applications. So I think the Enclave, so there's an early team, ex Alameda folks, building on top of Socket, this team called Enclave, and the idea there is sort of this B2B angle to chain abstracted accounts, right? So if you imagine Socket as a platform to build chain abstracted applications, Enclave would be chain abstracted accounts, and they are primarily focused at APIs and like selling it to B2B partners. So at the moment they have, I believe, like 8 partnership lined up with like different teams using Enclave Wallet to enable unified balances for all of their users. So you can embed a wallet into your app or into your protocol and offer unified balances, and also offer like zero latency actions, like whatever this action is. It could be a swap, it could be like depositing into your protocol, and these funds could come from anywhere. So I think really like a super simple idea. These guys have been very under the radar, super small team, just starting up and super hungry and like going at it. So you will see a lot come out from them. I think yesterday they released a super cool demo. I think it's the only one so far of a project leveraging 7702 to enable chain abstraction for an EOA, right? So everything I've been talking about now possible for EOAs, right? And powered by Enclave and Socket under the hood. So I think that's the Enclave function.
Do you think that's gonna drive sort of maybe greater mindshare or maybe greater tangible experience of chain abstraction now that people can experience it with 7702 into their EOAs? Because I think one of the things with smart accounts that people have talked about for a long time is that a lot of people didn't want to create different smart accounts for different apps or wherever they were going. Do you see that playing out now that chain abstraction is actually going to be, because it's sort of been this myth, right? Chain abstraction for like 12 months, but now it's right here. So how do you see that 7702 is going to sort of boost chain abstraction, if you like?
I think like chain abstraction wasn't real, but I think since December, a bunch of companies have shipped, and people are using these products now. So it's becoming clearer and clearer, and like areas of differentiation are now happening. I think honestly for B2C products, I don't think it was a big blocker not having EOA access. I think people are fine using embedded wallets across the space using Privy or something like that. And you can just add chain abstraction capabilities to it. and it would work. Like people won't even know it's a smart wallet or anyway. Like they don't even know who is the private key holder. And a lot of times it is custodied by Privy or some other custodian. I think for those use cases, it would have like still worked. It is more for people like us who are deep in the space using MetaMask, Grabby, existing I don't know if you should call them universal wallets, but yeah, like all of these existing wallets that one really like migrating, and we want to use the same EOA across different like apps. I think for us this would be a massive game changer, or at least it's expected to. I don't know. I think it is honestly like everything in Ethereum is like so vast that it takes multiple parties to like opt into these upgrades to truly take advantage of it. So I don't actually know what is going to happen once 7702 is out there, but the promise is real. I think there are some challenges around, MetaMask having their own sort of like implementation, which is incompatible with Rabi. A bunch of these things might happen. People are saying hardware wallets won't support it, so that could be weird. But again, I think it's a step in the right direction, and we'll see what happens. It's like up only for chain abstraction, essentially.
100%. And the other thing that I always think with this kind of like the step forward that we're having with chain abstraction, that I want to get both of your opinions on. Just maybe I'll throw it to you first, but you guys have both been building in the space for a long time. And as you mentioned, VC, this kind of like 702 is super bullish for people like us who have been in the space. We've got our wallets and we just want to use our one wallet in all the different apps. People talk about chain abstraction as kind of this catalyst to new app experiences, product experiences, or UX experiences that's going to bring new app development on chain, and bring new users with it. What about the reverse of revitalizing existing apps, right? There's a lot of apps that have been attempted to be built. Jasper, you've been speaking to builders for years. Do you see kind of like almost like a renaissance period for existing apps that can be much more friendly and sort of have a comeback moment?
Phil apps died, and I don't think they're coming back. But I think that every cycle we see sort of like a new attempt at many of the ideas that have been tried before, where people still feel like there is like something there. And in the end, it's all about timing. And the timing is both sort of like zeitgeist, like memes, like what's happening in the world. And at the same time, you have sort of like technological advances that happened since the last time the app was tried. Plus like finding the right team that's in the right place at the right time, so that finds the right investors, right? Like there's like this whole sort of like, in order to make a good consumer app, you need like this whole symbiosis to all come together. I think one good example of that is Polymarket, right? They chewed glass for like a few years. Many prediction markets in crypto died before them. Many people, everybody said it should be working. It's not working, and they were the biggest like winner of the last sort of like election cycle for tech companies, right? So I think this is going to happen again and again and again. And the thing that I think will be more easy this time round to sort of like get traction, and which has been tried many times before, is sort of like the social fi, right? Like you had like, back in the day, you had like Cent, and I think there was even a predecessor to them. And then last cycle, or was it this cycle or last cycle, you had Friendtech. Yeah, I think it was kind of this cycle-ish. Mm-hmm. And then 3 to 4 people trying to copy that, but still didn't work. I think that is one of the verticals where I see chain abstraction having like a real impact, because you will onboard a lot of new people who are what you need in order to go truly viral, right? You need virality. And crypto has just been like a huge bottleneck / filter for virality, right? Like you cannot go viral with a crypto app. You can go viral with a story that involves crypto, such as Fartcoin, and people can buy it, and then it comes in the news and more people buy it. But like the apps have had like real trouble going viral just because of the shitty UX. So I see sort of like all of the things that have been tried didn't work, but people feel like there's like, there's something there. They'll get another shot. What that will be is like that's a $1 billion question. I don't know. We'll see.
Do you have any?
If I'd know, I'd build it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think Look, like the way I think about this is, hmm, so if your product isn't, so a product needs to offer like this much amount of value, right, for people to like come and use it. But if the friction to use it is larger than this, then it's not going to happen, right? So if your product has marginal value, you better like lower this down as much as possible. So like people can come and like still gain value from things that you've built. So it's really like I don't think great UX is going to have you to like get you PMF if your thing is like shitty, but it gives you a better shot at it and gives and provides like more value and better odds at like a chance at it. Like I was just trying to check out story L1 protocol. I went halfway. Uh, point came to bridging. I said, fuck no, you know. But if they actually had something that, I could just like go and start using apps there, like chain abstraction and build. I was there. I tried to figure it out for like 3 minutes, but really like the first like thing wasn't that interesting that I bridge over. And second, like, bridging really sucks. So
You didn't feel like settling your own intent there. You had the intent
exactly,
to
yeah.
use it, and like then the then the
Like the
friction
intent
was too
wasn't that
high.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This value and like friction thing, like it needs to be like balanced. I think chain abstraction just like really helps you lower down one side of it, and give you a better shot at like getting PMF. That's how I think about it.
I think that's a super good way to put it. Sort of like, yeah, just lowering barrier to entry, which makes it easier to build, to get users, right? Like just, I think like user acquisition in crypto is probably like crazy expensive without chain abstraction. And I think chain abstraction will just bring that number down like drastically.
Look, that's the whole L1 play, right? Like, why do you think people are deploying on Solana, or people were deploying on Ethereum L1? They were doing so because you deploy on Solana, there are already loaded wallets everywhere around you, ready to use this new thing that just launched with the lowest amount of friction. I think that is the L1 network effect, if not nothing else. I think with chain abstraction, it sort of like smoothens things out, so you can get that experience everywhere. It doesn't matter where you have a wallet; it's loaded, ready to go. Use that app in one click.
I think the other thing that's goes side by side with the sort of the friction, and minimizing friction, making access higher, is also creating apps that resonate with people who aren't on chain now, right? And I think that's why Jasper is a really good call, actually, to think about like what's an industry gateway app look like. VC, you talked about this on our chain abstraction war room a little bit, that there's like kind of gateway. I think you were talking about chains at the time, like gateway chains versus like infra chains. But even like zooming that into the application layer, there's like gateway app experiences that maybe like Polymarket, because it makes sense. People know how to gamble and they're familiar with the topics that you're gambling on, right? It's the politics. SocialFi is really, really interesting as a gateway application into crypto, because when you bring someone into crypto and it's immediately financial and it's immediately like speculative, one, there's a massive education barrier to build the confidence of like, okay, I'm going to be willing to lose. I think I'm going to gain money on this $1,000, but I also know that I'm going to lose. So you have to have that balance, right, where the person's willing to bring that money on chain. So maybe the better way to start thinking about bringing people on chain isn't into these speculative apps straight away, but into familiar social experiences that then get them on chain, low balances to start off with before they move across into speculation apps.
I think there's no way to make SocialFi work in crypto without having like a ton of speculation in there. I think whoever's ever building crypto apps and trying to make them work, they need to sort of like just make the speculation easier, right? I think that is really what you got to do, because like there's if there's no direct value transfer, the sort of like net benefit of using a decentralized app is still very low, unless you really care about like privacy, or you really care about, or like pseudo anonymity, I guess, or you really care about ownership, etc. Like, but users won't care, right? So I think you still need to like use one of the sort of like levers you have as a crypto company, and it is just gonna be some sort of speculation, even for these SocialFi apps. Otherwise, you're just going to be outcompeted by Web2 company because they can create like better UX and don't. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's maybe I'm jaded.
What about in this
but
context?
I do think that is
because I'm coming from like maybe it's more of like my esports background here, where we were trying to bring esports memberships on chain, right? And they give like access, automated access to different whatever the rewards were going to be from these esports chains, but it was way too soon, and the education barrier, it was like 4 years ago. So imagine trying to do that back then. But imagine, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that when you bring someone on chain, let's say it is like through like this creator economy now that like teeny boppers and young 20-year-olds just maybe going a lot more mad over than someone like myself, maybe you guys, they come on chain, then they have the infrastructure they need to then move somewhere else, right? Then they maybe have like an account, which is their wallet, that then when they do come into contact through these creators on chain with higher speculation, like a trading app or something like that, or a poly market, there's no need to restart that journey. They've already got their feet in the water, so to speak, and then boom.
Yeah, they're onboarded.
Yeah. So maybe that's like, maybe when I'm curious to see how you, like any apps that you think would do it within SocialFi, because I think SocialFi is such a broad term as well. But I think that anything that brings someone on chain first, just to get the account set up, right?
One interesting thing could be like a streaming platform where you use the crypto wallets, like chain abstracted wallet, for donations. And then once you have that wallet already loaded up, you can also use that to spend it elsewhere. I think that is like pretty insane. I think the app will hate it because they don't want you to spend funds that you deposited to spend on their app somewhere else. So I actually think that that's going to be a temporary gain. I think probably big apps are going to like gateway that again. So make it so that like you deposit into like a specific contract, so it's not usable anywhere else. But that dream is beautiful.
Are we seeing that?
Yeah, I think. Which one?
The gating of payment, like within apps.
Oh, that will like that's the whole reason why embedded wallets like work. Apps don't give a fuck, right? I think fragmentation, like we might solve it on a chain level, we might solve it with standards on the infra level, but really like fragmentation will just like move to like higher levels, because fragmentation means differentiation in a lot of ways. And apps want to be differentiated, or like at least like create walls to like monetize, So I think like fragmentation will always exist. It will just like move to like different layers, and that is like completely fine. That's how like things should be. Also, like a note on the previous thing on like what apps. I might get like sued a couple of years down the lane for saying this live, but really, I think there are two sorts of apps that sort of work on chain. One is things that are maybe illegal, maybe gray in the real world, and you can do them on chain, just because things are like decentralized and you can't like like blame a central authority and sue them and put them into like a cell somewhere. So Polymarket is gambling on chain, like launching, on Pump Fund or doing like token launches on chain is like going IPO, but without all that barrier to entry. So I think really like these gray things you can put them on chain, and if people like them, they will get traction. Second thing you can do is like leverage the shared trust that blockchain provide you to sort of increase capital efficiency, or increase increase the margin of an application using the infra. So a good example is stable coins. Like Robinhood said yesterday in their announcement that they're using stable coins to sort of do their, I think, end of week, end of month clearing, because it's efficient than using a banking system. They're like sending CCTP messages or like USDC mint and burn across networks is like static. Doesn't matter what size. Versus doing that on banking would be bits charged on every transfer. So I think there you sort of like literally can draw a sort of like meta-based graph that shows, hey, switching to crypto will help us make like $100 million more in like 2 years. So now it is not like them buying into crypto, the philosophy, it's them buying into blockchain, the tech, the infra. So I think this gray stuff and areas where you can increase margins for traditional or like for applications, I think those are like, how I think about what apps should work on chain.
That's a good mental model. Are you seeing in your work at Socket, much conversations with enterprise, or are you sort of still seeing it more with sort of smaller apps coming on chain?
Enterprise sales cycle, man, it is insane, and the amount of education you need to do is also insane. And with chain abstraction, I think we are just starting to like get into the CD crowd, so we are not like going too hard at institutions just yet. But I think previously we have, and I think really like the only language they know is the language of profit and margins. So as long as you can like show them that they can make more this way, I think it'll work.
What's interesting there is like with sort of like startups, there's so much goodwill. People want to work together. You can tell them like, hey, you'll save time, etc., and they'll care. With enterprise people, you usually don't talk to the CEO, but you talk to somebody that wants to prove to his boss that he's going to make the company some money, so his bonus at the end of the year is bigger, right? So now that's the game you're playing. It's just a completely different pitch, where you really have to pitch them on like, hey, what's like the net gain that we're getting out of this? Like then it becomes like way more of a number game than just pitching on sort of like vision.
Oh yeah,
same fundraising actually.
Yeah, actually, and your BD guy can't just go like, hey, if you just do logo X logo, it will get us 200 new followers. Like there is no profit.
Yeah, the good old times. I want to touch on one more thing before the end of the half hour. I don't know if you've been following this narrative. Well, narrative push, I guess, is what it is at the moment. And it's a great conversation, actually. This trade-off between trading off decentralization now to push a better product experience in the short term, right? And then that's there's sort of extremism within that take itself, where people are saying like, let's just abandon philosophy. Let's just make good products, whatever the trade-off is. And then there's kind of like asterisks around some of the people pushing this of like, they're moving away from maybe Ethereum, which is philosophy heavy, to other VMs like Solana or whatever other VM it might be, or different products. Like this was talked about a lot around Hyperliquid. You've been in Ethereum for a long time. You're making Ethereum unified. I saw a really, really cool post that you guys retweeted from Let's Get On Chain, was the account that wrote it. I don't know if you remember it. It was talking about kind of like how Socket can give you best of both worlds, right? You get the philosophy of Ethereum with the great product experience, I think was the general kind of the takeaway. And I guess that's just chain abstraction on Ethereum. I wanted to get your thoughts on the first part of that, trading off decentralization for better product experiences, how you see kind of that spectrum.
It is an interesting question. As I said, like there are two sorts of products. One are the gray area products, and one are the profit-making products, right? Or like margin increasing products. I think for the gray area products, you have to optimize for decentralization. There is really like no other way to go about it. So essentially, you are trying to find like a neutral playground where you can deploy and people can't sue you. I think Pump Fun is a great example of why some of their stuff is on chain. Why they had to turn off streams is also a reason why people should decentralize that part of things. They had to turn off streams because shit went like too south. If like people would start posting that data on some DA, again, I don't know how it would work, but really like that's like streams had PMF. I think it is just about time when people figure out how to do it like in a decentralized way, and Pump Fun will like put it on again and it will like work. It will get super weird again, but that's the whole point. Like we are launching meme coins on chain. It is weird here already, For the second side of things, I don't think decentralization is a big factor. USDC, USDT, these are profit making. Like if you use stable coins, profit will increase for your apps, and these are regulated businesses. Both are like fully centralized. The fact that they exist on chain doesn't mean that they are decentralized. Like they can blacklist you at any point. Hyperliquid, same. People are using Binance, so it's very clear they have PMF there, and having like move from. So if you provide that same experience but on 4 validators, people don't care, right? Because they've been using it on 1 validator, and people don't like park funds in Hyperliquid. They sort of like go there, use it for the machine that is, and like pop out. or like deposit it for a while and like pop out. So I think like chains and apps have like different purposes. And decentralization, where to sacrifice, where to not, is sort of like super dependent. I do think most apps shouldn't do decentralization just because of the philosophy, but rather for the utility, as I mentioned before. Like if you want to do polymarket, it can only happen on chain. So you're using decentralization as a utility, not as a philosophy. I think generally like philosophy and like product building don't go super well together if it's anti-market. So I think like listen to market and like use do the best trade-off for your product. Yeah.
Yeah, finding the minimal viable amount of decentralization you need and leveraging it for like what it's useful for. Like for us, decentralization is purely a way to add a lot of security to the network, right? Where in other places, like a poly market, for example, it's just not to go to jail, right? Like with us, the selling point is like, hey, look, it's decentralized, so it's like easier for you to trust our data. Like there is not a single party that's controlling this. Whereas poly market, it's like, hey, look, we are not escrowing any funds, right? It's like it really depends on the use case. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. Actually, I think that takes the sting out of the kind of like the way it's being pushed online on where it like has to be black or white. I think it's the same with chain abstraction, right? Where people are making this like kind of black and white distinction between chain abstracted and not chain abstracted, especially when you think about like user groups. Like there's certain, when I look at chain abstraction, I think about like having my CAD balance. Like if I was using Socket, for example, or a Socket powered product, I would have my CAD balance because I want to be able to flick balances in amongst different apps that I'm using. But then let's say that I'm rotating, maybe it's profits out of that. I'm probably going to go put them onto my cold wallet because they're supposed to stay there and stay. And I think that these kind of narratives, whether it's decentralization versus centralization, or a chain abstracted, fully chain abstracted experiences versus like having cold wallets and controlling every element of them, it's all a spectrum, right? It all comes down to what's the user trying to do, what's the application trying to do, and what's the infrastructure trying to do. And we need to be more transparent about that in our conversations.
Honestly, Matt, I'm trying to go the other way because my engagement is super low, and black and white gets great engagement.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you don't mid-curve it, right? They say that you either to the left or you're right. You take a stance heavy to get your yaps in, I guess.
Nuance is not sexy.
Yeah.
Nuance is not sexy indeed.
Yeah, no. Let's maybe say on CT for your yaps, go full Tabasco, and I love that. Like, shout out to him there, and I think that's fantastic because it helps conversations drive. But when we're talking to like people who are, I'm gonna say, easily radicalized here, that just like jump on a bandwagon, I would love to see like more thought leaders be like, well, hang on, what is it that we're talking about? Because I had a guy pop up on a mega.
Not gonna happen.
It was on a mega. Well, actually, on a mega eth thread, which has been super spicy lately. There was a guy who was like ripping apart this conversation because he was saying, well, which part of the stack are we talking about here when we mentioned decentralization versus centralization? And the conversation was around like someone was talking about like having a single run solver. And then other people were talking about like just chains in general. And it just pointed out the fact that it was like, if we don't know specifically which part of the stack we're talking about, how can we make these, black and white claims? And I thought that was a cool conversation. But then again, it doesn't get you yaps.
Yeah. It's like he's trying to add nuance. You shouldn't do that. It's a bad idea. People will not get outraged.
Yeah, no, we need to fuel the fire. Before we wrap up, you dominated the timeline yesterday with a series of Powerpuff Girls that were taking over my timeline. And my feed, it was everywhere. I still haven't looked into the Socket Society, but I'd love to just hear more while I've got you here.
Yeah, I think would love to like quickly chat about it. I think really like at Socket, we've been like laser focused, building distribution, getting adoption, and sort of turning our once centralized API into a full-blown product and like a protocol. So before this, we haven't really built any community of sorts at all because like I don't think centralized services need a community. I think like there's nothing for a community to do. Like they can't like meaningfully contribute to it other than just like write like Twitter threads about it. So really, what we wanted to do was like create this group chat of high agency people. I am, and like people at Socket, we are all pretty high agency, and we sort of like pick up things that are missing and sort of like start like fixing things. We've done this with bridge aggregator stuff. We've done this with scaling. When I was at Polygon, I built one of the first ZK rollups. I've done this with Mev when I built first version of Flashbots with the Flashbots team before. And really, like, that's the idea here. How do we get high agency people to like step up and like come together to fix what is broken in our current ecosystem, which is essentially like all of this like fragmentation everywhere, this like broken app experience, this whole like bridging stuff. So I think like really Socket Society is a group chat. It's nothing else. It's not complicated. Of like high agency people of multiple kinds, be it builders, people who write threads, people who create new, people who do artworks, coming together and sort of like pushing for like Socket and for chain abstraction. And we call these people power puffs. And of course, like I think power puffs is like great for Socket because Socket power. And also, it was one of my favorite cartoons. I think every one of those characters has like a superpower. So it just like felt super right to do things this way. And yeah, I think glad we've been annoying on your time yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was good because I mean, when I first saw the Powerpuffs, I was like, what is it? Like, it was a good marketing move because it made me just go, what are they doing? I've been watching Socket for 12 months. You know, I've seen your branding, I've seen everything. I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, is it like they being hacked or like, and then suddenly it was popping up everywhere. Then it's like PFPs. So it was super good. And I think the first step is you got to do a test, right, to get in. And then you get the percentage and that gets you through the door, right?
People have been super mad about it because apparently this is the toughest quiz people have taken in the space so far. I think I remember doing the block quiz back in the day. I think this was like, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And then Mega Eats did one recently. And we are like, you know, like we just want the highest agency people to like step up. Like whenever you sort of like do anything like Socket Society, a bunch of like randos come in and they're like, hey, when I drop the token. I think we just want to like start slow and sort of like discover our culture together at Socket Society. And to do that, we need to like put a high barrier to entry, only allow people with some proof of work to enter. This quiz will be one way to like show proof of work, proof of history, whatever. There will be other ways to do it. And I think you should take the quiz and post a screenshot. It is only going to be up for the next 12 hours.
If I fail, does anyone see it or is it?
I will, and I'll tweet about it. Yeah. You don't have to worry.
All right, epic. No, I look forward to taking it. I think it's a great idea, and I think that meta is changing around communities as well. So we've been sort of looking at different ways to do the community, and one of the things that we first talked about just quickly was if people come to a point where they would have sort of like some sort of benefit or some sort of like, you know, inner circle to whatever that might mean, right? How do you wrap this kind of moat around it, like a castle style moat, so that people who want to farm things and want to sort of like, you know, who don't care about the quality or don't have no passion for the tech because they have different motives, they're off put from day one. And I think that like that's a fantastic way to do it because you're just saying like, no, this is what we're doing it for, and these are the type of people that we want who are willing to engage in this and have a certain mindset. I think that's like completely normal for a brand to do, right? Because why would you want to dilute your brand and product just for the sake of following, you know, the done thing? So my hat off to you. I think it's fantastic, and I look forward to taking the test. Jasper as well, maybe. Yeah, awesome.
Appreciate it, guys.
Nice.
Yeah. Check it out. Let me know if you have any trouble, and you can expect some interesting things from Socket in the next few weeks.
Yeah, more. I mean, we'll have to get you back on to talk through like the other 4 projects that we didn't touch here, but it spanned from like AI to Polygon to Kinto, the modular exchange. So very exciting VC, and wish you guys all the best as you keep pushing forward, and look forward to some more SEDA Socket things in the future.